Let's bring in Senator Ted Cruz. We will start with the violent protests that we saw in major U.S. cities overnight. Senator Cruz, good morning to you and welcome. First to the Wall Street Journal editorial board this morning. I'm sure you've already seen it, a weekend of urban anarchy. These were not peaceful protests, despite what many in the media claim. The weekend's events were a deliberate assault on public and private property, law enforcement, and public order. Lawlessness begets lawlessness. Local officials are allowing this disorder to occur, and the more it is indulged, the worse it is likely to get. You have a plan to bring these U.S. cities back. What is it?
Well, I do, and I think you're exactly right what you've reported this morning, which is that we're seeing growing violence, we're seeing physical assaults, we're seeing radicals who are trying to really tear down our society, and none of this should be complicated. You have a right to protest. I have a right to protest. Peacefully, we have a right to speak our minds. The First Amendment protects that. What you and I don't have a right to do is hurt somebody else. You don't have the right to physically assault someone else, to firebomb a police car, to loot and destroy a small business, to murder a police officer. And sadly, we've seen all of that in riots throughout the country. And all of that at the same time is being facilitated and even encouraged by Democratic politicians who have made a very cynical decision not to allow the police officers to actually do their job and protect physical safety, protect property. And so they've ordered the police officers to pull back, and they're letting their cities burn. And so I've introduced legislation, it's called the Reclaim Act, that says if you are injured or if your property is damaged during a riot, and the local officials have made the deliberate decision to withhold police protection, that you can sue that city, you can sue that municipality, and get triple damages. In addition, any city that refuses to provide police protection during a riot is denied eligibility for federal funds, because what these Democratic mayors and governors are doing, it is wrong, it's endangering people's lives, and it's denying the basic civil rights that every American is entitled to.
Senator Cruz, you wrote last week in the Wall Street Journal about your words, these radicals hate the police. They reject the rule of law and are intent on terrorizing their communities. We are expecting Bill Barr to speak top of the hour. He's appearing before the House Judiciary Committee this morning. He's expected to label these protesters anarchists. What do you expect from that testimony this morning?
Well, I think if he describes them as anarchists, he would be accurately describing what we're facing. These are violent leftists. Many of them are anarchists. Some are affiliated with Antifa, a national terrorist organization. Others are affiliated with a group called Black Lives Matter, which was founded by and is run by open Marxists, people who are calling for a Marxist government in the United States. We're seeing radicals whose objective, look, Portland, what's going on in Portland? Every single night, they're physically assaulting the federal courthouse. They're trying to burn it down. They're trying to level it. And the federal police officers are doing their job of stopping terrorists from burning the courthouse to the ground. And Democratic politicians are just standing back. I mean, you reported at the top of the hour how the mayor, Ted Wheeler, says, we want the federal officials out. Well, apparently then what he's saying is, go ahead and burn the courthouse to the ground. The federal officials should ignore their responsibility to stop violent acts of terrorism directed at federal property. That's just not right. It doesn't make sense.
From one problem to the other that this country is facing, coronavirus and the next round of relief. This is the big debate happening on Capitol Hill. As you just heard reported as well at the top of the hour, Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, Mark Meadows, Chief of Staff for the White House, is expected to meet with Nancy Pelosi this morning. What does that tell you about something getting done? Here's some of the details of the Senate GOP HEALS Act. You heard some of them laid out earlier. It includes $200 weekly federal unemployment benefits, more PPP, $16 billion for testing, $105 billion for schools. It's $1 trillion package. I heard from your colleague, Senator Marco Rubio, last hour on this network. He sounded pretty optimistic something can get done. Are you?
Well, I certainly hope that bill doesn't pass. I think it is a very, very bad idea. Number one, we're going broke. Our national debt is over $26 trillion. We are literally bankrupting our kids and grandkids. And too many Republicans are joining with the Democrats, essentially in Democrat light. $1 trillion is a whole lot of money, especially because it doesn't solve the problem. You know, there's a very different scenario between now and back in March. In March, you saw Congress come together with bipartisan agreement on emergency relief. It's sometimes called stimulus legislation, but it wasn't designed to stimulate the economy. It was relief legislation designed to give emergency short-term loans to help people get through the height of the crisis. We're at a very different point now. Where we are now, what we need to pass is recovery legislation. Our focus needs to be getting people back to work. That means the small businesses that employ people across this country who are just starting to open up, just opening the doors right now. We need to be cutting taxes on them and lifting job-killing regulations to help those small businesses survive, help them thrive, help them hire people back. And I'll tell you, the fundamental choice here is do we want people working or not? What you incentivize, you get more of. What the Democrats want is they want to incentivize, they want to pay people not to work because they want as many people not working as possible between now and Election Day. Our objective should be maximizing the rewards for working and getting people back in the workforce. And I believe the election in November is going to turn on that question. If we're back at work, Donald Trump wins and Republicans have a good election. But if the Democrats succeed, their objective, they want tens of millions of people at home alone, unemployed, broke, and ticked off because they think that's how they elect Joe Biden. And that is really cynical and a bad outcome.
Obviously, Democrats would disagree with that message. But to your point about people needing relief right now, individuals, families, and businesses, with the 30 or so seconds that I have left, based on what you just said there, and based on this meeting that's happening a bit later this morning, what are the chances that something advances by end of week, Senator?
Look, unfortunately, I think Republican leadership is prepared to make the bill even worse. Democrats want to shovel cash, trillions of dollars, largely going to their friends. That's what Nancy Pelosi wants. I think the bill leadership rolled out will only get worse and worse and worse. It's a mistake. They're solving the wrong problem. We need to be getting people back to work, not just printing money or borrowing it from China.
All right, Senator Ted Cruz, thank you for joining us this morning.